Today is all about what has already happened. What are the results so far, and how can we build on that, and how can we expand that? But is it about technology, or is it about entrepreneurship? Is it about innovation? And coming over here, I was thinking of a story which reminded me of a piece of innovation that I'm still very fond of in the mid-20th century. And I think it was a Danish entrepreneur had a carpentry shop and such, and he was at a conference. No, I think at a fair or something in Germany, and heard about this new technological innovation which could help his product. And we're talking just post World War II, so you know, money was something of an issue, and it was a plastic injection molding machine. Now, many of you will probably already start understanding the context, but this Danish entrepreneur who bought this molding machine and started using it for his products built massive innovations around that. And that was our good friend Ole Kjær Christiansen, who later on actually already at that time, had founded Lego, which we all know now. But that having been built on something, having gone from wooden toys to buying a plastic injection molding machine and using that for something as toys. And by the way, that toys has developed further, and the whole concept of these building blocks and Lego bricks in itself is quite an innovation. And you know what's fun around this? If you understand Danish a bit, which I don't, but I looked it up, Lego comes from the Danish words leg godt, which means play well. And actually, if you take technology and you take entrepreneurship, it's all about being playful. It's all about combining the two and leveraging it for the better purpose of the products you're making. So yes, it is about technology, but more so it's about how can you use that? How can you make that products better, the processes better, and all those sorts of fields. So I hope today we have a bit of a playful atmosphere as well in terms of how can we understand what has been done. And we're going to hear a bit about policy, we're going to hear a bit about strategy, but the coolest thing is we're going to hear about real products and services that have been improved, leveraging leveraging what I4MS has provided, offering SMEs the ability to experiment with new technology to see, is this something we can do? And then to be able to expand on that. And having a discussion with Khalil, who will speak in a moment, it's all about creating a snowball effect almost, that this technological uptake can be done by some SMEs, and then it expands from there. So that's all about today. The official opening will be done by Khalil Rouhana from DG Connect. And Khalil is the Director of Components and Systems, which is all about research and innovation, about industrial and business development in micro and nanoelectronics, photonics, robotics, embedded and complex systems. So eventually he understands a lot about the technological side, and even looking at his history, having come from the aerospace side as well and engineering background. But I'm sure that Khalil will not just talk to us about how technology is important, but specifically how the impact on business should be supported and embraced. So without further ado, Khalil, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dinan. Good morning, everyone. I hope that we'll get from I4MS a handful of Lego. Like one or two would be good. I mean, it's not. But you'll see that we're ambitious, and we hope that we have high expectations from I4MS, and we hope that indeed there'll be a lot of businesses serving you and a lot of new business development coming out of this initiative. What I'll try to do this morning, very quickly and very briefly, is share with you where we stand on, I'll say, the policy initiatives, and that I4MS, where I4MS play a key role for us. And so that would help us put I4MS in the general policy objectives of the Commission. So I'll do that. And you'll see that, as I said before, and as mentioned in Berlin last year, this initiative is a foundation for a large, I would say, policy initiative. And what we're doing here is extremely important for us. That's what I'll try to do. Let's see if I get my slides on. It should be okay. Just an enter will work. No. Should be here somewhere. I think should be somewhere here.
Do you send it to us?
Yeah, see, it's up there. Good. Great, thanks. Okay, technology works. So, as I said, I'll try to brief you a bit about what's happening on the policy side that affects or where I4MS is positioned. I'll talk about this initiative that my commissioner has announced in Hanover, at the Hanover Messe almost 6 weeks ago, that we call Digitizing European Industry. And it's really about Europeanizing Industry 4.0, smart factories, smart industry, the usine aux industries du futur, as we say in French, in France today, the industrial initiative in the UK. So trying to see whether we can have a European level industrial initiative aiming at making any industry in Europe benefit from digital technologies, making the best out of it to grow their business, remain competitive, modernize their production tool, etc. That's what my commissioner has announced 6 weeks ago, and he has announced tracks of actions that he would like to explore with the member states, he would like to explore with industry. And we're preparing for him now a series of roundtables and discussions where these lines or these thoughts that we have from our side, from the Commission, will be shared, discussed with all the member states. And what's good is that what we've seen from the first contacts is that these ideas are shared by industry so far. We'll see in the details how it can work, but also with a large part of the member states. That's what I'll be briefing you about. So just why we're engaging into this policy initiative, or called digitization of European industry. You know that the digital policies today are high on the political agenda. In fact, the first large policy initiative that came from the new college, from the new commission, the Juncker Commission, was about the digital single market. It was announced on the 6th of May. And it's a large initiative that covers a lot of areas and engages not only my commissioner, but a large number of commissioners across the college, and it's coordinated by a Vice President Ansip of the Commission. Now, digital single market is about preparing the market and ensuring that we create the right conditions for any business to grow on a large market, not fragmented markets in Europe. So it's a market-driven initiative, tackles the legislations going from online commerce to data protection to telecom regulations, making sure that we find the best framework for having a one market for Europe. Any business developing a digital product or service can sell it on the whole European market with no difficulty. Now, in addition to that, my commissioner said we need an initiative to prepare our industry to be able to benefit from that market, and this is what I'll be telling you about. So we know what is at stake from digital innovations. We already mentioned this in many of our speeches before, talks and brochures. We think that digital transformation or digital innovations affects industry 3 ways. First, at the product level with digital insight. This is about IoT, smart connected objects, where we see large opportunities for embedding more ICT in all types of products and services. And the large opportunities are coming today also from non-tech sectors, not only about putting more ICT in cars or planes, but also putting ICT in furniture and construction materials, etc. So, large opportunities there, mainly for SMEs, and you'll see why. Digital transformation of processes, so this is about the manufacturing processes. A lot of what we do on the factories of the future is related to that. Of course, from logistics, from cradle to grave, from logistics down to customer relation management and product lifecycle management. And we have a big transformation that is coming in the way we monetize the investments in production. So this is the business models change, and this is, we think, is a very important transformation that is happening. It's one of the biggest transformation probably that is affecting industry in general. That If I go in details and very quickly on this, I think on the innovation in products, we know that, you know, ICT bringing value into all types of products, it is there, and we know also that it's going beyond the product up to the service, and we see developing more and more what we call cross-cutting value chains that cross across layers from the components and the basic software, embedded software, up to the product and services. And these new value chains are developing across all industries with ICT at the heart. And if you look at all industrial initiatives that come in lately, you know, recent policy initiatives at member states level, you see that digital is at the heart of these initiatives, because digital value creation is essential. It's not the only one. We know innovation is not coming only from ICT, but today it is essential. Of course, you have materials, you have energy issues, you have more optimization to be in the processes, but digital technologies are today at the heart of the innovation and transformation of industry. And you know, the high-tech industry knows this. If you look at the R&D investments that they do in ICT, these are non-ICT sectors. You see the percentage, it's revealing. But the issue is not only with the high-tech industry, it's also with the rest of the industry. If we look at the processes, we know this. I mean, this is your area of work, so I don't want to elaborate on this, but we see, you know, that cross-cutting across the whole production cycle, from modeling and simulation, down to the shop floor, laser-based manufacturing, 3D manufacturing. Across that, the innovations are growing, and they are converging between various technologies that are changing the way we design, we simulate, the way we produce, etc. Of course, there is a big, I would say, input coming from the way we process data, the way we circulate data, and the possibilities that data analytics provide us with today. So this is about the what we call the changes in business models, and that phenomenon that we see growing, which is this merging between products and services when it comes to value creation. If I go backwards, you see today that, you know, we have a large part of value creation coming from services, and an important part still, if you look at the economic say distribution of value creation across the economy. You see products, you see services. But more and more, we see that value creation is coming from the mix of from the blurring of boundaries between products and services. And that has a lot of impact on business models. We still need to produce products, of course, but when we produce products, we need to make sure that we also have the capacity to capture the value from the product and look at how it's going to be commercialized, etc. And if we miss that point, we will be producing products and others making the money out of the services around the product. So this is extremely important for the future. And this is not going to stop. This is not going to stop. If you look at the technology tracks and how it's developing, you see 5 main converging innovation tracks that we see in I4MS. I mean, it's coming also bottom-up from your proposals. Big data and cloud, so cyber-physical systems, smart connected objects, hyperconnectivity, robotics, autonomous systems, automation, and all what is going around, you know, laser-based manufacturing and additive manufacturing. And these are creating new business opportunities. So this is what is at stake, i.e. converging, developing ICT tracks that are affecting the whole production cycle, and that we need to make sure that industry in Europe can capture the opportunities that these bring to remain competitive, grow, and create jobs and growth. So where do we stand on this today? Just quick analysis. If you look at digital industry, if we want to be able to seize the opportunities from digital transformations, we need a strong digital industry and a strong digitized industry. And in the future, these go more hand in hand. In fact, a lot of digital champions, next generation of digital champions, might come from non-digital industries of today. As you know, where the mainstreaming of ICT across all types of products and services, any artifact could become a digital good in the future on which you could build value. So it's important that we have this balance between a strong industry, digital industry, and a strong digitized industry. They go hand in hand. So where do we stand on the digital industry? Well, we're good. We're good in professional and vertical markets, which is very good opportunity for us for the future. We have world-class R&D hubs. We have good infrastructure. We have a good size market. If it's single, it would be great. It's one of the largest world markets. Give you China is around the third of the EU market, the whole Chinese market. So it gives you an idea. Now, we have a strength, but we have weaknesses. We have weaknesses that could be crippling for the future. And this is our presence on non-presence in consumer markets, in internet and web products and services. And if we look at this merging between, or the blurring of boundaries between products and services, that weakness could be very threatening for the future, as we know. We have structural weakness, no digital single market. This is why we've put this proposal on the digital single market on the table as quickly as the new commission has come in. And we have some catch-up to do in terms of investments, and those of you who were here yesterday, we talked about this investment issue. And you look at our strength in the ICT, we see that, you know, the strength in the professional market, I mean, you know, this is the area you're dealing with, like, you know, embedded software, embedded systems. This is where we have more, you know, almost a third of world production done in Europe. We're still very good in doing equipments and machinery, and we're weaker in the layers that are in between. That's important. We have strength we can build on. We have weaknesses to catch up, where we need to catch up. Digitizing our industry, what is the situation today? We have strong digitizing in high-tech industries and in some member states. I'll show you the graph later on. But we have major also challenges ahead of us. Slowness, disparities in adopting digital solutions across industries and regions. We talked about the lag of investment in ICT yesterday, about 400 billion euros of catch-up that we're in the last 10 years if we compare ourselves with competing economies. And this is coming mainly in SMEs and non-tech sectors that are lagging behind. We have less than 2% of SMEs today that use advanced technologies in their business, in their production processes. Less than 2%. Of course, all of them use the web. All of them have internet actions. All of them have accounting software on their PCs. When it comes to advanced technologies, from robotics to simulation design, etc., that drops very strongly, 2%. We have new competition coming in all industrial sectors from non-EU digital platform owners, and we know this. I mean, we have big debate on platforms, online platforms, but now we're not only talking about online platforms. We're talking about the platforms, the operating systems, the middleware, the software development tools, and all what will enable you to connect objects and things together that will be in our homes, in our hospitals, in our schools, etc. Big threat there if we're not strong enough in the future that these parts of the value chain that will be essential for the future will not be in Europe. That's very important, a big threat. We need to do something about it. Lack of standards and interoperability, this is what industry is telling us. We get locked in very quickly with a vendor and we're married for life. So skills and reskilling of workforce, a big challenge ahead of us there to reskill our workforce and adapt it to digital transformation. We have legislative and regulatory gaps that we need to address, and we have a fragmentation of effort across Europe. If you look at the study, it was interesting, done by Ron Berger for the German Ministry of Industry, showing if we look at the digital readiness of the industry in Europe to move and to seize the opportunities that we talked about in product processes and business models. And you see that, you know, the situation is not homogeneous across Europe. We have, although, I mean, I would say it's an interesting graph because it shows that there is potential for everyone, potentialists, hesitators, traditionalists. Still, I think there's a big challenge to bring all regions in Europe into this fourth, I would say, golden quadrant that you see on the above. And we're not talking about, you know, laggards that would not be a problem if they just backward. We're talking a large part, a large chunk of our economies that are still in the phase of not exploiting enough ICT. And you can see it on this graph. So this is the disparities, and this pushes us to tell you what we're going to do about it very quickly. Diversity of efforts across Europe. So all member states have now, I think we did an inventory of 24 initiatives in the member states or at regional level in order to try to address these particular issues. And you could see that across Europe, you know, of course, Industry 4.0, you know, probably the smart industry in the Netherlands, Sweden production 2030, the UK catapult initiatives on industry, etc. But I mean, this is spread all across Europe. That's the situation in Europe. Now, what we say is that that's good. I mean, it's great that many member states and regions are taking these initiatives, and they should, absolutely. But I think, in addition to that, we think there is a room for an EU-wide initiative to tackle issues like interoperability, like standards, to tackle issues like critical mass of investments, to tackle issues like mutualizing risk when it comes to supporting businesses, etc. And that's, you see, what we will be proposing. And that's why when Commissioner said we need an EU-wide initiative that ensures that any business in Europe, any business, wherever it is situated, can make the best out of ICT to modernize its production and business models. And we need also this initiative to tackle the adaptation of our workforce for the digital transformation. 4 lines of actions proposed. 1 about widespread adoption and best use of digital technologies in all industrial sectors. Any industry should be able to have access to the knowledge, to testing facilities, to help in developing new ideas using ICT to modernize and innovate, modernize this production and innovate. And these, what we call the must technology in industry, should be available, should be accessible to any industry all across Europe. That's the first one. The second one is about leadership in digital platforms for industry for the future. And this also needs to be tackled, focused effort on doing this, and you'll be discussing this later on today, I think. Filling the skills gap and preparing our workforce for change, essential, work to be done with the member states, and providing the best framework conditions, anticipating the regulatory issues that affect industry, that currently part of that is addressed under the digital single market. Whatever we could identify today as essential, we address it under the digital single market. But there are things like liability of autonomous systems, like safety at work with robotics and humans working together, like data for industry itself, not only for citizens, etc. Data for industry, that's still to be addressed and discussed with industry in the future. And access to finance. We think that the current investment package to put forward by the Commission could be very beneficial for SMEs. We have a big SME window, 75 billion euros under this investment package that will go to SMEs, and for larger companies with the rest of the 320 billion euros that are on the table. This could be used. There's a big opportunity for investing our production and modernizing our production tools. Where we see I4MS is in that first part. And you see that what we're proposing for that first part is entirely based on the experience we have with initiatives like I4MS. And that's the first one, provide any business in the EU access to digital must. I think this is the business you are in here. So in addition to what we currently started, an initiative like I4MS, we think that there is room now to add to the investments that we're doing, additional investments that will come from IH 2020, and we have already planned for this, but also investment that can come from the structural funds, that could come from this new investment package, that could come from the member states. And we call it an investment to build digital innovation hubs that are reachable anywhere you are in Europe for any industry in Europe. And I think that's not new for you in I4MS. What we're talking about is upscaling our current initiatives and networking of these innovation hubs to ensure specialization, cooperation, and access through a one-stop shop. When you access a hub, an innovation cluster, or a competence center in Europe, you can access a whole network. I'll develop this further on just in a few minutes, and I'll stop, don't worry, it'll not take longer. So, new level actions, upscale EU Network Competence Center as glue. This is our plans for initiatives like I4MS, and we expect complementary actions, as I said. What we think is that today we're planning for something like 500 million euros in the next years. This is to reassure you that what we're doing in I4MS will continue. We're not doing only in I4MS, we're doing it in Smart Anything Everywhere to be able to cover innovation in product, processes, and business models. We're doing it also in specific areas like photonics, robotics. We have these types of actions that enable us to build these digital innovation hubs, to build these access, to enable that access to technology all over Europe. 500 million euros, this is what is planned for the next 5 years, 15 to 20, but we think that it's important that this money is used to leverage additional investment from the structural funds, from regional funds, from the new investment package that is at least 10 times more. Very quickly, this is where I4MS fits in. So this access, this first track of our digitization industry strategy, I4MS is at the heart of it, as you can see it there. Our initiative is about reinforcing competence centers, such as RTOs, such as university labs, but also private labs if they exist, or building new ones, so reinforcing and building new ones when needed in order to be able to serve industry. And this is what you're telling us. I mean, the RTOs, competence centers that are here, are telling us, yes, that's good that the money you're giving us from I4MS to do these experiments and connect with each other. But it's not sufficient because we need to build our capacities in order to be able to serve industry as well. So new labs, have equipment, enough equipment, etc. Now that will not happen only through I4MS. It needs to be a combination between I4MS and investment that could come at regional level, at member state level, as we think extremely important. We have, as I said, other initiatives of this sort, like the Smart Anything Everywhere initiative. Some of you are involved in it. It's more about embedding ICT in all types of products and services. And we have others, as I mentioned, in photonics, etc. These initiatives are our starting point, and we'll continue supporting them in the next 5 years. But our ambition is to get additional investment into these areas. And those of you who are following the Key Enabling Technologies high-level group, they go totally, their recommendation is totally in line with this when it comes to reinforcing these competence centers. Complementary investment in capacities, structural funds, member states, regions, investment in experiments, investments in connection between these competence centers to come from EU level. I think that complementarity can be essential. This is what we want. Now you see, I already mentioned these figures. You see where I4MS fits within our strategy. This is to put pressure on you, tell you how important that is. If we look at where we stand with I4MS today, this is the picture that you already know. 111 million euros already of EU funding, in addition to the 77 we had, more than 40 million euros spent in 2014, and we added others to come in 16, 17, as you know, as I mentioned. But if you look at the map, we're not satisfied a lot with this map, frankly, because, of course, we have the core industrial, you can see the core industrial regions in Europe heavily involved. That's good. It means that the initiative gets support. I'm very happy with that. But I think if you look, we have still work on us to do, all of us, if we want to achieve that objective, i.e. any business in Europe can have access to technology. So you're just looking at the map, you see that we need to expand our presence and reinforce our presence all across Europe. That's extremely important if we want any industry in Europe to be able to use ICT, modernize its products, and bring these all regions that we've seen in the map of Roland Berger into this fourth quadrant. Why it's important to do that? It's important not only for the regions that are not covered yet, or the regions that are not investing enough in modernizing a production tool. It's important for all of Europe, because value chains that you, industry, have developed all across Europe will be affected if you have parts of Europe that is weaker than the rest. And this is what you're telling us. We have value chains spread all across Europe, and it'll be important that the whole of Europe is in line with our production. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're trying to do. In this first track, they called it the access track, and you see the role of I4MS in it. I'll stop there. I'll not develop the other tracks, i.e. the platform building, where we're promoting a focused research, development, innovation, including in FOF. Not on I4MS, but the rest of FOF, on building the next generation platforms, but also in Excel, also under the Future Internet Initiative. Also in our investments that we're doing in high-performance computing, all the public-private partnerships should help us develop these next-generation platforms on which value is creation. That's the platform part. On skills, we have other ideas to develop, and we have already engaged in looking at these legal barriers for the future. To conclude, what I try to do is show you, as I said, how I4MS fits within our strategy for digitization of European industry, how important that is for us, why it's important, we think, to have an EU-wide digital strategy, and we think it's important that it covers the whole value chain, the whole innovation chains, bring in all actors across Europe, huge opportunities arising from digital transformations, huge opportunities that can build on Europe's strength in these, what we can do best in Europe, i.e. build complex, safe, reliable systems and embed them in all types of products and services. Huge opportunities for us. Huge opportunities to build on our strength in robotics, in photonics, where we're leading in cyber-physical systems, where we have leading positions. We need to do that. I think it's essential. Otherwise, the guys who are present in other areas, consumer electronics, etc., are also looking at this. And they will be, most of them are not based in Europe. They will be also capturing value from products and services in Europe. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Khalil. And I think one of the interesting numbers you showed here is actually the 220 experiments, so actual SMEs that use it. One of the interesting aspects about I4MS is, one is you have the network, you have the access to the skills and of course the money, but it provides SMEs the possibilities to go beyond that first step of taking the risk of experimenting with a new technology and doing it, and then being able to build on that. Next speaker is Silvia Della Mazza. She's the coordinator of I4MS Gate and will give us a summary of the developments so far. Just a small note to all of the speakers: try to keep to your time. If you go over your time, I'll start singing, and trust me, you do want that. And other time we lose, we'll cut into coffee and lunch breaks and such. So I think we all have an incentive to maximize that.